A gas leak forced me out of my apartment at midnight in my nightgown, sent me to the ER for carbon monoxide exposure, and when my daughter Amanda insisted I stay with her for safety while repairs were done. She took my metal lockbox from my hands a little too quickly, her smile a little too bright. And 3 weeks later at 2:43 a.m., I lay perfectly still on her sofa bed pretending to sleep, while I heard the soft click of the closet door opening, the quiet jingle of keys they'd somehow copied, the faint scrape of my lockbox being opened, and Amanda's whisper barely audible in the dark. "This is enough, take it and let's go." And the next morning when I checked the hidden camera I'd installed after noticing my grandmother's three-generation diamond earrings had been moved in the box. I watched my daughter and her husband crouch over my life savings at 2:43 a.m., watched him try 3 different copied keys before one worked, watched her lift out those earrings, watched him count my $1,500 emergency cash, watched them photograph my bank statements and investment passwords with their phone. And when I checked my accounts, I found $47,000 stolen through forged signatures, my retirement account showing a $25,000 pending wire transfer I never authorized, my phone messages from the apartment manager saying my unit was ready deleted so they could keep me trapped there and keep stealing. If you want to know how a 70-year-old retired teacher who trusted her daughter with her entire life used that camera footage to freeze every account, file criminal charges, force a legal settlement that got back every penny plus court costs, cut her daughter out of her life permanently, and kept her granddaughter who told her parents you weren't selfish. They were, even after her mother slapped her for defending me. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this is about learning that the most dangerous thieves are the ones who use your trust as a weapon. That family doesn't give you the right to rob someone while they sleep, and that sometimes choosing yourself over people who see you as a bank account instead of a person isn't selfish, it's survival. And it's the only way to save yourself from people who have decided your money matters more than your trust. I'm from Portland, Oregon. Where are you watching from? My name is Margaret Chen, though everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 71 years old now, but when this story began, I was 70, just barely actually, only a month past my birthday. Inside, I still felt 40. I was still the second-grade teacher who could quiet a classroom with a look, who knew when a student was lying about their homework, who had that sixth sense about when parents weren't telling me the full story. But the mirror didn't lie, and neither did the way the young firefighter had taken my elbow to help me across the street that night like I might crumble. I wouldn't crumble. I'd lived alone for 5 years since Richard died. Managed my own finances, my own life. I'd even started taking watercolor classes at the senior center, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for when I was teaching. But that night, the night of the gas leak, everything changed. It was a Wednesday, nearly midnight. I was in bed reading when the building's fire alarm started shrieking. I grabbed my robe, my phone, my keys. That was it. No time for anything else. When I got outside, firefighters were already there, and the smell hit me, that distinctive rotten egg smell of gas. "Gas leak in the unit below yours, ma'am," one firefighter told me. "We need you to go to the ER for observation. You've been breathing this for hours." I felt fine, but they insisted. The ambulance took me, along with 3 other residents from my floor. At the hospital, they ran tests. Carbon monoxide exposure, mild but concerning for someone my age. They kept me for observation until after midnight. That's when Amanda arrived with Brian, her husband. Both of them insisting I couldn't possibly go back to my apartment until the building was fully inspected and repaired. "It could be weeks, Maggie," Brian had said, using my first name like we were friends instead of in-laws who'd never quite warmed to each other. "The whole ventilation system needs checking. You heard the fire chief." I had heard him. 2 to 3 weeks minimum. Amanda's house was nice, a good neighborhood, well-maintained. She and Brian both had solid jobs. She worked in accounting, he was in sales. Their daughter Lily was 16, a junior in high school, always on her phone like teenagers are, a normal suburban family. "Come stay with us," Amanda said, squeezing my hand. "We have plenty of room, you'll be safe." Safe. The word echoed strangely as I nodded, too tired and dizzy from the carbon monoxide to argue. The next day, Brian drove me to my apartment to get some things. The building manager confirmed it would be at least 3 weeks before my unit was cleared for occupancy. I packed 2 suitcases with clothes and toiletries. And I went to my bedroom closet where I kept my most important possessions, the metal lockbox. It wasn't huge, about the size of a shoebox, but it held everything I had left of value, my grandmother's diamond earrings. 3 generations old, appraised at $8,000, but worth infinitely more in memory. $1,500 in emergency cash. My bank statements, investment account information, retirement fund documents. The deed to a small plot of land Richard and I had bought in Montana, thinking we'd build a cabin there someday. My birth certificate, social security card, Richard's death certificate, insurance policies, medical records. Passwords written on cards for safekeeping. My entire life basically in one locked metal box. I had the only key, wore it on a chain around my neck. When we arrived at Amanda's house, I carried that box carefully from the car. The moment I stepped through the front door, Amanda took it from my hands, a little too quickly, her smile a little too bright. "Don't worry about a thing, Mom," she said, already walking toward the living room. "You'll be safe here." Something cold settled in my chest as I watched her disappear around the corner with my entire life in her hands. "I put it in the closet," she said when she came back, gesturing vaguely toward the tall closet next to the sofa bed they'd set up for me. "Completely safe. We'll figure out a better spot tomorrow." But we never did figure out a better spot. The box stayed in that closet, and I slept on the sofa bed in the living room, 10 feet away from everything I owned. The first week passed in a blur of insurance calls and contractor estimates. My apartment building's management was apologetic but slow. The repair timeline kept stretching. 2 weeks became 3, then possibly 4. Amanda was understanding, almost too understanding, always quick to say I could stay as long as I needed, but things felt off in ways I couldn't quite name, little things at first. The way Brian would leave the room when I called my insurance company. How Amanda started asking careful questions about my retirement account, my teacher's pension, whether I'd considered simplifying my finances now that I was getting older. "Just thinking ahead, Mom," she'd said over breakfast on day 8. "You know, in case something happens, it would be easier if I were on your accounts just as a backup." I'd smiled and changed the subject. But my teacher's instinct was humming. Something was wrong. I started paying closer attention. They lived well, nice house, decent cars, good neighborhood. But I heard them arguing late at night when they thought I was asleep. It was the end of week 2 when I heard it clearly. I'd gotten up for water around 2 a.m. and their voices were carrying from the kitchen, low and tense. "We're drowning Amanda." Brian's voice was rough, desperate. "The second mortgage. Lily's college fund, we had to cash it out for your mom's cancer treatments last year. We didn't have to, I chose to. And now we're 40,000 in debt with collection agencies calling. Your mother has money just sitting there. She won't even miss it. Keep your voice down." I froze in the hallway, my hand on the wall for support. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. "I'm just saying," Brian continued, quieter now. "She's got that pension, the retirement account, whatever's in that lockbox. She's one person, we're a family, and if something happened to her, don't." Amanda's voice cracked. "Just don't." I made myself walk back to the sofa bed, my legs shaking. I lay there in the dark for hours, staring at the closet door. The next morning, I needed to see my insurance papers to call the apartment management company. The folder should have been in my lockbox. When I went to the closet after Amanda and Brian left for work, I noticed immediately the lockbox had been moved. It was pushed to the back behind winter coats when I'd left it front and center. My hands were steady when I pulled it out. The lock looked fine. I had the only key, wore it on the chain around my neck since the night of the fire. But when I opened it, I knew immediately. Things had been moved, not taken, but rearranged. The envelope with my grandmother's diamond earrings was on the left instead of the right. My birth certificate was under the insurance papers instead of on top. Someone had gone through it. I sat on the floor of the closet for a long time thinking. Then I got up, put everything back exactly as I'd found it, and went to Target. I bought a small motion-activated camera, the kind parents use as baby monitors. When I got back to the house, I set it up in the closet, hidden behind a stack of blankets on the shelf above the lockbox, angled down perfectly. Then I waited. That night at dinner, Amanda was jumpy. She knocked over her water glass, apologized 3 times, refilled it, then didn't drink it. Brian was too cheerful, asking me about my day, about the apartment repairs, about whether I'd heard back from insurance. "Actually," I said carefully, "I need to access my lockbox tomorrow. There are some papers I need." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds too long. "Oh," Amanda said. "Well, you know what, Mom? We're actually reorganizing the living room tomorrow. Brian's been wanting to rearrange the furniture and it's going to be a mess. Maybe wait until the weekend. I really need them tomorrow." "I can get them for you," Brian offered quickly. "Just tell me what you need, save you the trouble of digging through everything." I smiled. "That's okay, I know where everything is." "The thing is," Amanda stood up abruptly, started clearing plates even though we weren't finished eating. "We're having the carpets cleaned tomorrow. The living room's going to be completely off limits. Chemicals, you know, not safe." I nodded slowly. "I understand, but I didn't sleep that night. And I didn't need to wait for my hidden camera footage to know what I'd find. Because at 3 a.m., I heard the soft click of the closet door opening, the quiet rustle of someone moving carefully in the dark. I lay perfectly still on the sofa bed, eyes closed, breathing steady. I heard the faint jingle of keys, the small scrape of the lockbox being opened. I heard a soft intake of breath, then Amanda's whisper, barely audible, "This is enough. Take it and let's go." When the closet door finally closed again, when I heard their bedroom door shut upstairs, I made myself wait another hour. Then I got up and checked. The lockbox was locked again, perfectly positioned. If I hadn't been looking for it, I never would have known, but I knew. The next morning, I waited until they left for work. Lily was already at school. I was alone in the house. I had time. The camera footage was crystal clear. I watched my daughter and her husband crouch over my lockbox at 2:43 a.m. I watched Brian try 3 different keys before one worked. A copy. They'd made a copy of my key somehow. I watched Amanda lift out my grandmother's diamond earrings, the ones that had been in our family for 3 generations. I watched Brian count the cash I kept for emergencies, $1,500. I watched them take my bank statements, my investment account passwords that I'd written down on cards for safekeeping. I watched my daughter photograph documents with her phone. And then I watched them carefully put everything back, lock the box, and slip away like thieves in the night, because that's what they were. I sat on the floor with my laptop and started checking my accounts. My retirement account showed a pending wire transfer request for $25,000 submitted yesterday. It required 2 forms of authorization, my signature and a secondary verification code that had been sent to my phone. I never got that code, but Amanda had access to my phone sometimes. I'd let her use it when hers was dead, never thought twice about it. The password had been changed on my main checking account. I could still see the balance, but I couldn't access it, and that balance was lower than it should be, significantly lower. I called the bank. It took 3 hours on hold, working through their security questions, but eventually I got a supervisor. "Mrs. Chen, yes, we have authorized withdrawals here. $8,000 on the 15th, another $12,000 on the 20th, both with proper authorization forms and your signature. I never signed anything." There was a pause. "We have the documents here, ma'am. Scan copies with your signature matching the one on file. Those are forged. I'm looking at my credit card statement right now. On the 15th, I was at the hospital. On the 20th, I was in this house. I never went to a bank." Another pause, longer this time. "Ma'am, if you're reporting fraud, I am, by my daughter and her husband." The silence on the other end of the line felt like judgment, like disbelief. But then the supervisor's voice softened. "I'll freeze all your accounts immediately and send you fraud claim forms. But Mrs. Chen, you'll need to file a police report. And if family members are involved, I know what it means," I said. I hung up and sat at Amanda's kitchen table, looking around at her house. The expensive espresso machine on the counter, the new leather furniture in the family room, Lily's laptop top of the line sitting on the breakfast bar. They'd spent my money. They'd stolen from me and spent it on themselves, and they were planning to take more. I opened my laptop again and started making calls. My attorney, the police non-emergency line, the apartment building management to check if my unit was actually ready or if they'd been lying about that too. It was ready, had been ready for a week. The manager sounded confused when I asked why no one had called me. "We did, Mrs. Chen, left 3 voicemails on your cell phone." I checked, all deleted. Amanda had my phone password because I'd given it to her when I first moved in case of emergencies. This was an emergency. Just not the kind I'd imagined. I packed my things slowly, methodically, everything I'd brought with me, including the lockbox. I called an Uber to take me home, and I left a note on the kitchen counter for when Amanda got back. "I know what you did. My attorney will be in touch." I didn't wait to see her face. I didn't want to hear the excuses, the tears, the justifications. I'd heard Brian say it already. I wouldn't miss the money. I was just one person. They were a family, as if I weren't family, as if being related gave them the right to rob me. My apartment smelled stale when I walked in, but it was mine. I opened windows, turned on lights, and started making more calls. The police took my statement. The bank started their fraud investigation. My attorney drew up papers to remove Amanda from my will entirely. I changed every password, every account number. I moved my retirement fund to a different institution. I rented a safe deposit box at a bank across town and put my grandmother's earrings in it, along with original copies of my important documents. And I bought new locks for my apartment door, better ones this time. Amanda called 47 times that first day. I didn't answer. She texted, left voicemails that started angry and defensive, then turned pleading, then angry again. Brian sent me emails explaining about their debt, about how stressed they'd been, about how they'd only meant to borrow a little and pay it back. I didn't respond to any of it. What I didn't expect was the knock on my door 3 days later. When I looked through the peephole, I saw Lily, my granddaughter, standing there alone. I almost didn't open it, but she looked scared, and she was 16. And whatever her parents had done, she was still a child. "Grandma," she said when I opened the door. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in my small living room and I waited. "I didn't know," she said finally. "About what they did, not until you left and Mom freaked out." She was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. "I heard them fighting. Dad said you were going to send them to jail. Mom said it was your fault for being so selfish with your money when they needed help." "Lily, but it's not true." She looked up at me with red eyes. "You helped pay for Grammy's treatment when she had cancer. You sent me that check for my birthday every year. You weren't selfish. They were, and I told them that." My throat was tight. "What did they say?" Mom slapped me. She touched her cheek where a faint bruise was fading. "First time she's ever hit me. And Dad said I didn't understand about adult problems, about money, about what you do to survive." I reached out and took her hand. "You understand better than they do. Can I still see you? Even if you're not talking to them?" I squeezed her hand. "Of course, you're always welcome here." She cried then, really cried, and I held her like I used to when she was small and had nightmares. And I realized that cutting out Amanda didn't mean losing everyone. It just meant choosing who deserved to be in my life. The legal case took months. Amanda and Brian hired a lawyer, claimed the money had been gifts, that I was mentally unstable, that they'd been trying to help me manage my finances. Their lawyer painted me as a confused elderly woman who couldn't remember giving them permission, but I had the camera footage. I had the bank's records showing they'd forged my signature. I had the timing of when my phone messages had been deleted. They settled before trial, paid back $47,000, which was everything they'd taken, plus court costs. The criminal charges could have sent them to jail, but my attorney advised me that as first-time offenders and family members, they'd likely get probation. I didn't push for more. I just wanted my money back and my peace. Amanda sent me a letter after the settlement. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something made me open it. It was 3 pages of justification and blame, about how hard their life was, how much pressure Brian was under at work, how I didn't understand what it was like to raise a child in today's economy, how she'd sacrificed for me when Richard died and I'd never appreciated it. There was one sentence near the end that made me stop. "I thought you want to help us. That's what mothers do." I read it 3 times, then I wrote back just one sentence: "Mothers help when asked. They don't appreciate being stolen from." I didn't hear from her again. Lily came over every other Saturday. We'd have lunch and I'd help her with college applications. She got into Oregon State University with a partial scholarship and worked 2 part-time jobs to cover the rest. She didn't ask her parents for money, and she didn't ask me. But I did set up a small education fund for her, with clear legal documentation that it was hers alone, untouchable by anyone else. On the day she moved into her dorm, she hugged me tight in my apartment doorway. "Thank you for showing me what strength looks like," she said. I watched her walk away, 18 years old and more independent than her parents had ever taught her to be, and I felt something settle in my chest, warm and solid. I'm 71 now. I live alone, manage my own finances, take my watercolor classes twice a week. My apartment is small, but mine. My money is protected by passwords and banks and safe deposit boxes that only I can access. Sometimes people ask me if I regret cutting off my daughter, if I miss her. If I ever think about reconciling, I tell them the truth. I miss the daughter I thought I had. The one who would never have looked at my lockbox and seen dollar signs instead of memories. The one who would have asked if she needed help instead of stealing while I slept. That daughter doesn't exist. Maybe she never did. But I don't miss being someone's bank account. I don't miss lying awake wondering if my own family was robbing me blind. I have my life back. I have my peace. I have a granddaughter who knows the difference between family and theft. And I have a new lockbox, fireproof and drill-resistant, bolted to the floor of my bedroom closet. On the top, I've etched a small quote: "Trust is earned, family is chosen. Amanda didn't earn it." And when it came down to it, I chose myself. That's not selfish, that's survival. And every morning when I wake up in my own apartment, my own space, with my own life intact and secure, I'm reminded that sometimes the most important person to save is yourself. Even from the people who claim to love you most. Share your story with us. If you've trusted family with your finances and watched them abuse that trust, if you've been trapped somewhere because someone deleted messages telling you it was safe to leave, if you've hidden a camera and watched people you love steal from you in the dark, if someone has told you that you won't miss the money because you're just one person, while they're a family, as if you don't count. If you've had to choose between keeping toxic family in your life or choosing your own peace and security, know this. You're not selfish for protecting yourself. You're not cruel for cutting off people who see you as an ATM instead of a person. And you're not alone in learning that the most dangerous thieves are the ones who use family as permission to rob you. Trust is earned, not owed. Family is chosen, not automatic. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is lock your door, change your passwords, and refuse to let anyone, no matter how they're related to you, treat your life savings like their emergency fund. Choose yourself, always choose yourself, because the people who truly love you would never make you choose.